What's going on, everyone? Good Mike War Commentaries back at you with episode 529, here to put a nice little bow on top of the Royal Rumble 2019 weekend. It was an exhausting 4 days of wrestling, to say the very least, but a very exciting 4 days of wrestling as well, and we have so much to get into in this episode. First of all, I want to thank everybody who joined me for 3 nights of live streaming on the YouTube channel. I came up after NXT TakeOver on Saturday night and did a live review of the show. I also reacted to the entire Royal Rumble pay-per-view on Sunday, and then of course I was up here Monday night reacting to Raw as I am every week. And now I'm up here as promised to give you guys a very big podcast episode where I am going to recap just about everything that we've seen take place in the WWE over the last 4 or 5 days and get into all of the other major wrestling news floating around out there as well. What you can expect to hear in this episode is a quick rundown of NXT TakeOver. We'll also talk about the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, the highs and the lows, and everything that we saw take place at the pay-per-view. We'll discuss this past week's Monday Night Raw and Smackdown Live. I will address and discuss in detail my thoughts on the very big news that we learned this week from WWE that Dean Ambrose is actually going to be leaving the company when his contract expires sometime after WrestleMania. Very odd that WWE is announcing this so far ahead of time, and I've got a million theories on what might be going on here, so stay tuned for that. I'm also going to discuss the release of Hideo Itami, and I'm also going to touch on the slew of new backstage agents and producers that WWE has brought in, about a half a dozen of them, almost. And we're also going to preview the Elimination Chamber. We got a couple of matches set for that. And of course, we're going to discuss in detail, all throughout the duration of this commentary, ideas and possibilities for WrestleMania and what we might see take place on that big show in April. So, like I said, this is going to be a loaded episode, and we're going to get into so much more other than that, and it should be a lot of fun. I'm not going to waste too much of your time here. We're going to dive right into all this stuff right now. But first, I just want to let you know if you want to download this episode in podcast form, you can do that over at my website, goodmikewarcommentaries.com. Shoot me a follow over on Twitter, like the Facebook page, and please like this video. It's really helpful to get the likes up as high as possible, so I would also appreciate that. And also, please subscribe if you have not yet already. We just recently passed 25,000 on the YouTube channel, so now we're eyeballing 30, and I would like to get there sooner rather than later. So if you can help me out with all that stuff, I would appreciate it, and make sure you check the description below for all the links that you will need for everything Good Mike Work related. Like I said, we're going to chronicle kind of the whole weekend. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on NXT TakeOver and the Royal Rumble because, like I said, I was up here reacting. I even uploaded a reaction highlights video, took that whole 5-hour-long stream and condensed it down to about 45 minutes. So if you want to check out my Cliff's Notes version of my reaction to the Royal Rumble, you can do so. The link is right up there in the top right-hand corner. But I've been discussing it a lot in live streams and on Twitter and all over the place. So I'm not going to go very much in detail, but I'm definitely going to give you my opinions of what took place on these shows. We'll start with TakeOver first. Not a bad thing to say about this show at all. All of these takeovers are so amazing. What I like the most about them is they're usually 4 to 5 match cards, which is so refreshing because on Sunday we had a 7-hour pay-per-view when you include the kickoff with the Royal Rumble. So these smaller pay-per-views with a limited card that only go 2.5, 3 hours, I think are always so much fun, and you literally are excited for every match. There's been very few takeovers, hardly any at all, where you've had like bathroom break matches and shit like that, where in WWE sometimes you have 1 or 2 of those matches. And I think if I had to pick a favorite at TakeOver, I might give the nod to Gargano and Ricochet for the North American title, but I really enjoyed the tag match that opened up the show with the War Raiders defeating Undisputed Era, becoming the new NXT Tag Team Champions. That might have been my favorite match on the show. I thought it was such a hot way to kick off TakeOver, but it's really difficult to vote against somebody as talented as Ricochet and Johnny Wrestling, so I'm going to give those guys the nod, and very cool to see Johnny Gargano taste gold, singles gold that is, for the first time in NXT. I advise everybody to maybe check out the NXT spoilers if you're interested. Pretty big news coming out of the NXT tapings this week, so if you don't care about being spoiled like I don't, take a look at them. You're going to see some surprising news. I also really like the main event. This match was a little bit different than some NXT main events, has a little bit of a slower pace, a very WWE produced type of main event match. The pace and the way they kind of lay the match out is slightly different, I guess, than what we've seen in previous NXT TakeOver main events, but still a really good match. I predicted the match wrong. I thought Aleister Black might win back the title, but Tommaso retained, and I really have no problem with that. And I really like the ending when he's celebrating on the stage and Johnny Gargano comes out and the two of them kind of stare at each other. They both have belts. Interesting potential DIY reunion with both guys being heel now. I think can be a lot of fun, and what we're going to see at the next set of tapings is a little bit head-scratching, so who knows? Cassius Ohno and Matt Riddle went a little bit longer as well. They didn't have a 6-second match this time, so that was nice to see. That match was actually a lot better than I thought it would be, and Shayna Baszler, which I did predict correctly, retained the NXT Women's title, defeating Bianca Belair, which I am completely fine with. A lot of fans were demanding that Bianca Belair win the title and everything. Man, there's just no rush with her. I think she's got superstar potential written all over her. I'm not a huge fan of the hair. I mean, I know that's part of her gimmick and all of that, but that thing is fucking ridiculous. And at what point is her opponent going to just tie her ass to the ring post, and then just wail away on her with a chair? I might be in the minority on that. What I do like about Bianca Belair is she is different, so I don't want to shit on the idea of it being different and innovative and original and unique, but I just think that hair is a hindrance. So, like I said, I might be in the minority of that. It's just the way I feel. But still, a really good match, and I'm not even slightly concerned that Bianca Belair lost. I actually thought she should. And you guys know, I've said, I don't know how many times, countless times in podcasts, that I am never in any rush to see anyone from NXT get called up to the main roster or win any belts. And I think WWE, especially with the women's division expanding so rapidly, they need to develop some hardcore talent as best they can. And I see nothing wrong with extending Shayna Baszler's streak. I know a lot of fans are annoyed that her friends are coming in and helping her out win matches and stuff. I'm not. She's a fucking heel. Who cares? She hasn't won all of her matches like that. I think she choked out Nikki Cross without any help from anybody. I know the girls got involved at TakeOver in LA and now this match, but still, it's not something that's hindering or ruining her title run, in my opinion, in any way. And I think the earliest Shayna Baszler should be dropping that belt is during WrestleMania weekend at that TakeOver show. And if it was up to me, she'd go even longer. But if they want to have her drop it there, then I think it's fine. And they can move her up to the main roster because generally every year after WrestleMania, we get another handful of NXT talent. So, if WWE pulls the trigger on the 4 Horsewomen feud, which it seems like is starting to happen, then Baszler and company might have to hit the main roster. So that's why I'm kind of penciling in WrestleMania weekend for Shayna Baszler dropping the belt, but who knows? All I know is I'm fine with her retaining at TakeOver Phoenix. And overall, I thought TakeOver was a fabulous show. Moving on to our marathon Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Jesus, man, was this thing long. Like I said, kickoff was 2 hours. That's the norm for the big pay-per-views. But then the pay-per-view itself, the main card, was 5 hours long. Now, one thing I will say in WWE's defense, if you're ever going to have a pay-per-view that's going to be this long, I think Royal Rumble better suits this than WrestleMania, because at least with Royal Rumble, you've got 2 matches that take a long time. The men's and women's Rumble take up nearly half of the show, so I can understand this pay-per-view may be running longer than others, but maybe you eliminate some other matches. I think instead of Chad Gable and Bobby Roode defending the Raw tags on the kickoff, they should just not defend the titles at all and put the Smackdown tag titles on the kickoff to free up some more room on the main card. I don't know, just a thought. I guess Shane McMahon isn't going to be wrestling on any pre-shows, but it was just way too long. There was just way too much stuff going on, and it was exhausting. And like I said, I was up here for 5.5 hours streaming on Sunday night. But still, even though the show was very long, even though the show, basically killed us, it was still really good. I think as a whole, all of us as wrestling fans all agree across the board that the Royal Rumble was very good, primarily because of the outcomes that we saw in the matches. I think for the most part, the fans remained happy. I think for the most part, the fans got what they wanted. And I know I got what I wanted. Holy shit. My predictions for this pay-per-view were right the fuck spot on. Let's kind of talk a little bit about the Royal Rumble matches, the card, what we saw on there. Like I said on the kickoff show, not a whole lot going on. Nakamura did upset Rusev for the U.S. title. He won back the United States title. Now, he's going to drop that 48 hours later when we talk about Smackdown in a few minutes, but I was kind of surprised that he took the belt back from Rusev, and the two of them would continue their story on Smackdown in a couple of days. Buddy Murphy also retained his Cruiserweight title, and I was pleased to see that. I really didn't want to see him dropping it in a four-way on a kickoff, especially right in the middle of a pretty solid Cruiserweight title run. Now, as far as the main card goes, they opened up with Asuka defending against Becky Lynch, and that surprised me kind of, but it also made me very optimistic that my idea for Becky Lynch crashing the Royal Rumble could now happen. The fact that they're getting this match out of the way early, and Becky's got plenty of time to recoup, and it would also be a great way to give a big win to Asuka, especially if my Becky plans come to fruition. You know, if Asuka can defeat her here, it's going to, really help Asuka, who I've been really hoping can bounce back from everything that took place last year with some of the shady-ass booking that WWE did with her. And I kind of predicted a disqualification in this match. I didn't think they would have Becky lose, but I thought that Becky could afford a loss provided that she won the Royal Rumble. If she won the Royal Rumble, who cares what happens with Asuka? But one thing I did not think would benefit Becky is for her to not only lose to Asuka, but then not appear in the Royal Rumble. So I kind of thought we might get a DQ finish in this thing, but Asuka tapped out Becky Lynch. It was great. It was a really good match, solid match all the way through. Fans were into it. Becky was super fucking over. And in the end, Asuka really cinched up on her finisher, which bent Becky in a very awkward position, and she had no choice but to tap out. And I thought it was great because, like I said, if Becky goes on to do what I think she's going to do, that is a huge win for Asuka, and I cannot be happier for Asuka. I've been telling people ever since last year, ever since Charlotte defeated her, that it is not the end of the world. The streak had to end sometime. I liked the WrestleMania match. I had no problem with Charlotte going over, and all the fans just thought it was the worst fucking thing in the world. And I really felt that Asuka could bounce back from that. But WWE fucked everything up after that. They had Asuka doing dick all summer long, losing to Carmella, for crying out loud. Now, finally, at the tail end of 2018, they get her back on the map. She wins the TLC match, and now she defeats Becky clean at a big pay-per-view. Hell yeah. I could not have been happier with that outcome, and I think it really goes to show that WWE, despite the fans believing otherwise, they do spread the wealth with the women. Everybody's got this idea in their heads that Charlotte is pushed like Roman Reigns in 2007 John Cena, and I just completely disagree. The only thing of significance she did last year, aside from her title victories, was defeat Asuka at WrestleMania. That was it. That pissed off the fans so bad that they warped their own reality. Every other match that Charlotte has been in, big one anyway, big match, she hasn't really done that well. She did not defeat Becky Lynch at Evolution. She didn't defeat Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series. She lost at TLC, and we're going to talk about what she did here in a minute in the Royal Rumble match. And why don't we go ahead and talk about that now, since we're on the subject. Lots of fun in this Royal Rumble. One thing I will say about the Rumble that I liked from last year is it wasn't overrun with legends and names from the past. I didn't even mind if we saw one or two of those, but I didn't really think we needed to see that many. And they kept them, for the most part, out of this match completely, correct? They really were replaced by a lot of NXT talent, NXT UK talent, and that's what I wanted to see. And when you look at the women's division across all brands, NXT, NXT UK, Raw, and SmackDown, there are plenty of women to round out a very attractive field of 30. Some big names, good talent, good wrestlers, and I was really happy to see them do that. And as far as the surprises and the NXT talent goes, we saw Lacey Evans come out first. She was number one, which was interesting, allowed her to cut a promo and give her some exposure. We also had Candice LeRae. We had Rhea Ripley, who I was really hoping would make an appearance. I even said in my predictions video that of all the women out there that can make a surprise appearance, she is number one on my list. And I love the way she came out when her music hit and she was out there on the stage, and the way she just slammed her foot down. It just looked so badass, and I knew that she could come in there and do some damage. So of all the women, I wanted to see her more than anyone. So I was delighted when Rhea Ripley came out there. We had Kairi Sane as well, Io Shirai, Xia Li, and a little girl who I haven't seen much of, Casey Catanzaro. And I don't know, she probably weighed 88 pounds or something like that. And she had a really interesting elimination save where she walked on her hands and then straddled the ring post, which blew my mind, and then kind of climbed up it like a tree and got back in the ring. Very cool spot there. So there was a lot of fun in this match. I also enjoyed when Zelina Vega got underneath the ring. And during the live stream, as soon as she went under the ring, I said, girl, be careful. Hornswoggle's probably under there. And then 10 minutes go by. She keeps peeking her head out, which I hated, because every time Zelina peeked her head out from the apron, the referees were like right there. And I'm like, why is she doing that? And finally, when she did it for like the third time, that's when Hornswoggle popped out with her. And she screamed and ran away, and he's running around. And that was hilarious. That was just a nice little comedy spot. Didn't ruin the match. Just added, just something funny and allowed us all to have a little chuckle. But I want to know how long he was under there, because that's a big arena. Sometimes you can turn the lights off and you can kind of hide somebody or shuffle them under the ring without the fans knowing. That's such a big arena. How did they get him under there without the fans knowing? Was he really under there from the moment the show started? If he was, that sucks. I hope they paid him well for that. But like I said, overall, I liked the field. I liked the talent in this match. It was pretty action-packed throughout the whole thing. I got to give the women credit. I wasn't sure when this whole concept was, first developed a year ago and they said, okay, we're going to have a women's Royal Rumble. Prior to that on TV, every time the women would have a battle royal, they wouldn't even have to go over the top rope. They'd go through the ropes. So I wasn't sure how going over the top rope would look, if we were going to see a lot of botches. And I think this year's Rumble was better than last year's. And we knew who the alphas were going to be in this thing. I knew that no matter what, Charlotte was going to be the final two. And she came in, I believe, at number 13. So she was out pretty early, and she had a long run through this thing. Nia Jax was another one that was really highly touted, so I was thinking we would probably see Nia Jax in there at the end, and Charlotte, and hopefully Becky Lynch. And we all knew that Carmella had number 30, so the whole time I was hoping that Becky Lynch would attack Carmella and take her spot. But all the way back, during the kickoff show, during the Nakamura and Rusev match, the finish saw Rusev losing by knocking Lana off of the ring apron, and she twisted her ankle. And that allowed Nakamura to roll up Rusev or whatever and win the title. And that was going to put Lana at risk for her Royal Rumble spot. So when it gets to her, I think she's number 26 or 27 or somewhere in there, late 20s, her music hits, she comes hobbling out there. And as soon as I saw her, I was saying it right into the camera during the live stream. I'm like, holy shit, this is it, y'all. This is Becky's chance. She needs to jump on this. And Lana can't make it to the ring. She's very slow getting there. It takes her so long that Nia Jax is like the next one to come out. So Nia is walking to the ring. Lana is still in the aisleway. So Nia Jax attacks her, beats up Lana some more, injures her ankle some more. And all the referees and the doctors are out there. And I'm saying to myself, why would they be doing this? I was saying it on the live stream. I'm like, they would not be doing this shit with Lana if Becky's not coming out there, because otherwise why? Why is this even important at all? For her to twist her ankle and then her in the aisleway and everybody's making such a big deal about it, Becky's coming out. And sure enough, here comes Becky Lynch power walking to all the agents, one of which happens to be Fit Finlay, who probably has a soft spot in his heart for Becky Lynch, like we all do. He's going to take care of his own and let the Irish Lass kick her into that match, and she's begging them to let her take Lana's place because she clearly can't compete. And he says, go ahead and do it. So she gets in the ring, and she's in there fighting with Nia Jax, knocking her ass out. Charlotte looks furious at this whole situation. Once Nia Jax gets eliminated, we knew it was going to come down to Becky and Charlotte. This is the way it should be. This is perfect. The two girls start fighting, and eventually they do the sequence on the outside of the ring, I think, and Becky finally knocks Charlotte off of the ring apron and wins the Royal Rumble. Some fans found it predictable, but I thought it was all right. I thought WWE did a good job of setting the whole thing up. Like I said, I think it's really cool that Becky lost clean to Asuka and especially tapped out to Asuka to open the show, to come back now and win the Royal Rumble. And once she won the Royal Rumble, it was pretty much a done deal. She's going to Raw to challenge Ronda Rousey. It's right there for them. That's the match that we were supposed to have at Survivor Series. It wouldn't make any sense for Becky to stay on SmackDown and challenge Asuka again. The money match is Becky versus Ronda Rousey. So I think a lot of us came to that realization when this match was over. The fans went apeshit. We were marking out here on the stream. I'm sure everybody was marking out at home. Everybody just adores Becky Lynch, and we're all really happy for her. And this is great now. And I'll talk about the fallout to this and what took place on Raw and SmackDown this week, because there is still the chance that Charlotte could find her way into this match and it become a triple threat. There have been some rumors that that's WWE's plan. And as much as I defend Charlotte, I think the fans are completely out of their mind with their Charlotte hate. Oh, she's given too much and too many opportunities. However, I would be kind of annoyed if WWE feels like they just can't do this match without having Charlotte in there. I pitched the idea of Charlotte going into WrestleMania to challenge Asuka. Just do that. Give us Charlotte and Asuka too. And I want Asuka to win that match to make up for what happened last year. But that's an awful lot of losses for Charlotte, leading into WrestleMania if that happens. She lost at Evolution. She came up short or got DQ'd against Ronda Rousey, lost to TLC, got dumped out of the Rumble by Becky Lynch. Now she's going to go into WrestleMania and lose again. Charlotte reigns my ass. So the only thing I'm thinking is that we might get at Elimination Chamber or Fastlane, we get Becky versus Charlotte again. I thought they could maybe do a stipulation where if Charlotte wins, she is added to the Becky Lynch and Ronda match. They might do that. But if they don't, I wouldn't mind just seeing a grudge match where Charlotte beats her. That's all you have to do. Becky's fine. Becky can afford it. Becky can drop a match to Asuka and drop a match to Charlotte, because if Becky is about to tap out or beat Ronda Rousey, the first woman to do that at WrestleMania, that's a huge deal. And no matter what she does, she can job to fucking Hornswoggle prior to WrestleMania for all I care. If Becky's going in there to tap out Ronda, that's huge. So she can afford another loss. She can job to Asuka. She can job to Charlotte, set the two of them on a collision course at WrestleMania, and then she can go off and face Ronda Rousey. So ideally, that's what I would like to see. But we'll talk more about that when we discuss Raw and SmackDown here. Next up, we're going to backtrack a little bit and talk about the match that went on second, and that was the SmackDown Tag Team title match between Sheamus and Cesaro defending against The Miz and Shane McMahon. I predicted Shane and Miz to win this match. It feels like that's the direction they're going at WrestleMania with the two of these guys, and it seemed somewhat obvious that they would probably beat the bar and win the tag team titles. They did. Excellent finish. Shane McMahon, 49 freaking years old, on the top rope, hitting a shooting star press pretty flawlessly onto Cesaro. I mean, he just landed perfectly. When Shane McMahon or Vince or anybody like that tries to attempt a move like this, I am fearful for the person taking this move, that they're not going to be permanently injured or put in a goddamn coma by these uncoordinated, stumbling, bumbling mounds of flesh that come flying at them. But Shane McMahon, I gotta say, hit this thing pretty good. And he's amazing. I just have so much respect for Shane McMahon and how batshit insane he truly is. But The Miz and Shane are the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. And again, we'll discuss what they do on SmackDown here in just a little bit. We had Ronda Rousey defending the Raw Women's title against Sasha Banks in another really good match. I mentioned in my predictions that I felt on the entire card, this match I was probably the most interested in as far as like what we were going to see in the ring, because it was really a new match. I thought Sasha Banks was an excellent choice to face Ronda Rousey because she's going to be a great opponent for her. We know the match is going to be good, and the match was just good. It was good and gritty, typical Ronda Rousey stuff. Like I said, she has taken to wrestling like a complete natural, much like Kurt Angle when he came in after winning the gold medal. And within a year or two in the business, he's winning world titles. And Ronda has just been so impressive to me, and I enjoyed the match with Sasha Banks. And what I liked about it is Ronda won with a pin. How cool was that? She hit her Piper's Pit Samoan drop twist move. I don't know what the hell that is even called. But Sasha ate the pin. And I think it's the first time Ronda's won a match like that, a pay-per-view match. She's tapped out everybody else. And it was overall pretty much what I expected out of the match. And I was happy. Like I said, the women right now are in a lot of ways more interesting than the men, because I was really looking forward to Asuka and Becky. I thought that match delivered. And I was really looking forward to Ronda and Sasha. And I thought that match delivered. And more teasing after the match. Ronda helped Sasha up. They have a show of respect. I believe they hug. Sasha leaves. She starts walking down the aisleway, but she turns around to come back to get in Ronda's face again. I think she even flashed the 4 Horsewomen sign in her face, which is just more teasing that this is eventually going to take place, and we know something's going to happen around WrestleMania. Something's either going to happen at WrestleMania or after WrestleMania, like the night after or something. I don't know, but it looks like we're eventually going to get to that, and I liked all of the little hints that were dropped and all of the teasing. And the match itself, like I said, was very good, and I had no problem at all with Ronda retaining the belt. Much like Brock Lesnar, I feel like it would be best if Ronda was champion going into WrestleMania. A lot of fans were predicting Sasha to upset her here, but I just thought Ronda losing the belt after this long run her dropping the belt on the third match of the card or whatever just didn't feel like the stage. And like I said, there's a very good chance that the women are going to main event WrestleMania this year. Nothing is set in stone. If somebody tells you they know, believe me, they don't. But I think it's possible that WWE actually goes with a female main event. I hope they do. I think it would be awesome. We also saw Daniel Bryan retain the WWE title against AJ Styles with help from Eric Rowan. Out of nowhere, Eric Rowan shows up during this match, and I think he just chokeslams AJ or does something to him. Bryan is able to get in the ring and pin him, and Eric Rowan now looks like he's acting as Daniel Bryan's backup. It may be the beginning of a stable with Daniel Bryan, and I have some really funny things to say about these two guys when I talk about Daniel Bryan's promo on Smackdown, so stay tuned for that. Brock Lesnar, of course, did defeat Finn Balor. That match was up next. It did not main event, so that meant that my prediction was going to be that Brock retained, and he did, and in a little change of pace, much like Ronda defeating Sasha with a pin instead of submission, Brock Lesnar defeats Finn Balor with a submission instead of a pin. All of Brock's recent matches, he just F5s and pins his opponent, and he locked Balor in the Kimura lock, and Balor had no choice but to tap out. The match was good. It was by no means a squash. They did a deal on the outside of the ring where Brock charged Finn Balor. Balor moved. Brock hit the table, and the corner of the table went right into his lower abdomen. So he was selling that through the whole match. Finn got a lot of offense in, even hit the coup de grace at one point, which Brock very strongly kicked out of, and eventually is able to catch Finn Balor, lock him in the Kimura, and I loved Brock Lesnar's face. Did you see the way he looked at the camera or the way he looked up with those wide eyes? Fucking great shit. And Balor tapped. Now, what was cool about this is that Brock continued the attack. And I say it's cool because, maybe it's not completely ending the issue with Finn Balor and he's going to remain on the top of the card from here on out. That was my hope here. I wasn't expecting Balor to beat Brock, and I was fine with that. But what I was hoping for is that Balor's stock or importance in the company would increase after this match in the losing effort. And I've got a lot of plans in my head for Finn Balor for 2019. So stay tuned for some of my ideas when I talk about Raw here in just a second. And last but not least, the men's Royal Rumble match. This was another good one. I enjoyed this year's Rumble. Not in my top 3 or anything like that, but still very good. I liked some of the stories that were told. I liked all of the surprise entrants. For the most part, this was a really fun Royal Rumble, and it kicked off in such an amazing way. Holy shit. The number one entrant into the Royal Rumble was Elias. He was out there talking to the fans, about to sing or whatever. And number 2 turns out to be none other than Jeff Jarrett. Double J. Jeff Jarrett is number 2 in the Rumble. He came out there in his 1995 Double J attire with the lit up hat with the 2 J's. Looked like the same hat too because it looked a little rugged. And I marked out for this. I mean, Jeff Jarrett has not been inside a WWE ring in 20 years. Do you realize that? He left in October of 99 after that match with China. So the fact that he was out there was just blowing my mind. And apparently he has signed a new deal. And there's a lot of new people in the company and behind the scenes roles too that we'll talk about in a little bit. And apparently whatever contract Jeff Jarrett has signed, it gives him a backstage role, and we'll probably have him on TV appearing as a wrestler from time to time. And he would return on Monday Night Raw, which we'll discuss here in a second. So that was very cool. Lots of NXT talent as well. We saw Johnny Gargano make an appearance from NXT, Pete Dunne, and Aleister Black. So those were 3 huge names, all made appearance in this Royal Rumble. We also saw Kurt Angle make an appearance, and probably the most interesting Rumble entrant was Nia Jax. What do y'all think about that? Holy crap. She came out and attacked R-Truth. We knew somebody was going to attack poor R-Truth at number 30. And at the time, it seemed really confusing and really random for Nia Jax, of all people, to attack him. I had actually pitched the idea in my predictions video of Becky Lynch winning the men's Rumble. Because if Charlotte or whoever won the women's Rumble and Becky's nickname is the Man, I thought she could sneak into the Rumble and toss out the last person and just score some sort of an upset victory, and then she can still go on to Monday Night Raw to challenge Ronda Rousey for the title. But it turned out to be Nia Jax instead. She gets in the ring. Not only is she dishing out punishment, she's taking it, y'all. I think she took a super kick from Ziggler. She took an RKO from Randy Orton. This shit's crazy. And I think it's WWE. We all speculated this during the stream that it seemed like they're testing the waters, man. They really have some plans, I think, in the future for an intergender type of match. That might be something they're going to do. And we've talked about it. It's been discussed. It's been debated. I'm really fine with it. I have no issue if they do it. But I do know that WWE is going to have a lot of hurdles. They better really be sure they want to do it because they're going to have backlash from advertisers. Some advertisers might be completely fine with it. Some might not. I think this was definitely WWE just feeling this whole process out. I didn't really agree with any of the backlash that I saw from this. There were some people that didn't really like Nia Jax competing in the men's rumble because they felt like it promoted domestic violence and domestic abuse. And there's a lot of kids watching and might think it's okay to beat up a woman and shit like that. I really don't see that. I think kids in general should be smart enough to know the difference between competition and domestic violence. There's a big difference between Nia Jax entering a men's rumble and getting RKO'd than coming home and punching your wife in the face because the tuna casserole's not hot enough. There's a big difference there. So I just don't put that together. I know, maybe it promotes violence against women, but the way WWE set it up, they covered their ass. First of all, Nia Jax is a very large woman. She's larger than a lot of the men. And plus, in storyline, Nia Jax got in there. She entered the match. She started punching and kicking people. So it's their right. It's their job to fight back and try to eliminate her. So I really don't have a problem with it. I'm really not that concerned about what kind of message it sends. I think WWE is very careful about their image, and they're not going to do anything that's going to cause them too much backlash. Hell, they get enough of that shit from what's going on in Saudi Arabia and with Hulk Hogan and stuff like that. So to me, this is almost minor. I'm much more annoyed with WWE selling out to Saudi Arabia than I am with Nia Jax being entered into a men's match. Who cares? So for me personally, I don't know what everybody's thoughts on it. Most of you, I'm sure, are pretty much in agreement with me. This isn't bothering really any of us. I know everybody likes to use the term SJW and the whole world is overly sensitive and this and that. Like I've said a million times, everybody's a snowflake. We're all just snowflakes about different things. Some people are snowflakes about gender equality. Some people are snowflakes about razor blade ads. It just depends. And so this is not something at all personally that offended or worried me at all. And I'm hoping WWE doesn't receive too much negative backlash for this. But in the end, my hopes and dreams came true. I had picked Seth Rollins right from the start. I had picked Seth Rollins months ago. If anybody is going to beat Brock Lesnar clean, I think Seth on the roster currently is the right guy. He's got history with Brock Lesnar. They go back a long way. We know they can have a good match together. Seth is a really big part of the roster right now. He's a former world champion. He's a workhorse type of guy, former Shield member, really close friends with Roman Reigns. And Roman is really the only guy other than Goldberg and Triple H who have defeated, and Cena, who have defeated Brock Lesnar clean since his return. Somebody else on the roster needs to have that feather in their cap. And I think Seth Rollins deserves it the most. I'm happy that it's him and not Braun Strowman. I love Drew McIntyre as well, but Drew McIntyre is a really fun, sadistic, evil type of heel, and I don't know if he really makes the best opponent for Brock Lesnar. I think you need to put him in there with a full-fledged babyface because the fans are annoyed at Brock, the fans are sick of Brock, the fans want that Universal title back on TV, and the fans are going to go apeshit when Brock gets curb stomped and pinned at WrestleMania. And I think it's going to happen. But they had you worried, though, in the Royal Rumble because Braun Strowman was also in there. And Braun Strowman and Seth were the last two, I believe, in the Rumble, and Seth was able to eliminate him. So one thing I did not want to see is Braun Strowman win, and I really thought he had a good shot. We also saw Dolph Ziggler make his return. He came in kind of late in the night as well, and he was one of the last few in the Rumble match as well. But I thought the match was good. I thought it was a little bit nail-biting at the end because Braun Strowman remained in there, and he's been given title matches against Brock Lesnar before, and his issue with Brock is not over. So I thought that maybe he could win this match, and it kept me in doubt. And when Seth Rollins got the victory, I was thrilled. Could not have been happier. A lot of people thought he might jump over to Smackdown to challenge Daniel Bryan. I didn't think so. Raw is the only place for him. Brock Lesnar is the opponent that he needs, and that's the match I wanted to see. And we are going to get that because as we now move in to discuss Monday Night Raw, the show opened up with Seth Rollins, and do we have a lot to talk about here? Holy shit. So Seth comes out to open Monday Night Raw, and he says that he has to think about who he's going to challenge. He doesn't know yet. Well, he's then interrupted by Triple H, who comes out and congratulates Seth, but also pretty much demands that Seth make up his mind. He's going to give Seth Rollins until the end of the show to decide who he wants to face at WrestleMania. And not only is Daniel Bryan in the house, but so is Brock Lesnar. So everybody's supposed to be in the ring later on in the night, and Seth is going to make his decision. That's when they're interrupted by Dean Ambrose. Now, Ambrose comes out there, talks shit to Seth Rollins. They want to have a match with each other. Triple H is going to think about it, and he starts leaving, and that's when Ambrose gets in his face and says, "Oh, what's the matter? Do you have to go get your daddy's permission?" And so that pisses Triple H off, and he goes, "Fine, this match is going to open up the show." I think we go to commercial, we come back, the match is on, and Seth Rollins beats Dean Ambrose, hits him with the curb stomp, pins him clean, and leaves the ring. Ambrose stays in the ring. He's sitting in the chair, kind of dejected, even asks the fans to be quiet and stop being jerks because he has something he wants to get off his chest. And then he's interrupted by Nia Jax and Tamina. They come in the ring and pretty much throw him out of the ring. And he gets kind of humiliated there. So the whole thing is head-scratching. What was he going to say? What is this going to lead to? Was his little interaction with Triple H the teasing of a potential match? I was kind of confused by all of that. And plus, he just lost straight up clean to Seth Rollins. And then we learn the next day that Dean Ambrose, according to WWE, is leaving the company when his contract is up, supposedly right after WrestleMania. And this is really interesting. So my first instinct was that it was a work. We had heard some rumblings that a lot of talent is unhappy in WWE, and some people even mentioned to me during the live stream on Monday that Ambrose should leave and go to All Elite Wrestling. And I was like, why? Why would he do that? I know the booking of him and the use of him has not been perfect, but he's got a really good spot on the card. He's a multi-time champion. He's making seven figures. He's got a wife in the announce booth. I don't see, there's plenty of people that I think if they went somewhere else, like to All Elite Wrestling, I think they could flourish there. I think the grass is greener for a lot of talent. Ambrose was not on my list. I did not think he was somebody that would necessarily benefit more by going over there. He'd be a big name. It would be a great person to rub in WWE's face if they were able to land him. And how fun would Dean Ambrose be in Japan? Now, I know he probably can't work there full time. Moving there is not going to be possible. That's going to destroy his marriage. But if he could sign some sort of a Jericho-like deal where he showed up in New Japan every now and then, every few months, my God, the matches he could have there and the things he could do there. But I still was having a hard time wrapping my head around him leaving the WWE. And there's so many red flags here. First of all, WWE announces. They go on their social media and on their website and announce to the world that Dean Ambrose, real name, Jonathan Good. And you know what his middle name is? I think it's David. His name is Johnny D. Good. Why didn't he just use that? I hope he wrestles as that. I know a lot of people want to see him go back to being John Moxley or whatever. That's fine. But hell, if it was up to me, he'd be Johnny D. Good. But I found it interesting that WWE would announce that. And he's interacting with Triple H on Raw. He's about to say something on the mic when he's sitting in the ring, very reminiscent of the way Cactus Jack did, or Dude Love did in the ring that one time, and Kevin Owens did something similar when he quit a few months back. Kind of had that feel to it. You didn't know what he was going to say, and then Nia Jax and Tamina didn't give him an opportunity to say it. So I'm wondering in my head if this could potentially be a work. Maybe WWE is trying new things. The McMahons, when they announced this new era, they did say that we were going to see new matches and new ideas and shit like that. So if they are trying to internally work everyone, by especially releasing a statement that he's leaving, get everybody believing that he's leaving, only to not leave in April. And plus, on top of that, if Ambrose was leaving and if he gave WWE his notice, are they really giving up that easily? Don't they think they could potentially change his mind? The same type of stuff was going on, I think, with CM Punk, right? He was all set to leave, and then he made his contract demands, and he kind of signed at the last minute, and they turned it into a storyline. Same with Dolph Ziggler. Wasn't he set to leave a couple of years ago, and then he renewed when everybody thought he was out the door? So WWE usually doesn't announce this far in advance that somebody is leaving. So they must really be sure he's leaving, or they don't care. Or another potential possibility here is this could be just a negotiating ploy. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know if there's any bad feelings. Apparently WWE offered Dean Ambrose a huge sum of money. He turned it down. So maybe they're calling his bluff and say, okay, we're going to tell the world that you're leaving. That way, if you do want to stay, you got to come crawling back to us, and we don't have to entice you to stay by offering you even more money. Or maybe there is some bad feelings there. Maybe that's why they announced this. I think it's weird. I mean, Dean Ambrose, he's married to Renee Young. It's so funny to me. Did you guys see the footage of the fan that was forced to take off his All Elite Wrestling shirt at the Royal Rumble? It amazes me that WWE will make a fan take off a fucking t-shirt, but they don't care if spouses work for a company that they seem hell-bent on cock-blocking at every turn. I'd be curious to know what Renee Young's thoughts are on this. I'm sure she's very supportive. I'm sure that Ambrose would not make this decision without her input or without her blessing. But the whole thing is just kind of a little bit odd to me. So one thing I've noticed on social media, and one thing that I want to say right away here, is I'm not trying to be right or wrong on any side of this. And I mentioned on Twitter, and I got a lot of positive response. I mentioned on Twitter that the whole thing seemed a little bit weird and it feels like a work. I said, this shit's a work, y'all. WWE normally doesn't do things like this. No, now that doesn't mean I'm 100% firm on that stance and I'm insisting that I'm right and I want to be right. Here's a newsflash. I don't give a shit about being right. I really don't care. I don't think you have to be on one side or the other. And I was seeing a lot of responses like that on Twitter. They'll shout out or name drop other podcasters or YouTubers and they'll say, oh, well, so-and-so thinks it's real. And that really disappoints me. I'm like, well, so-and-so might be right. We really don't know. To me, it just feels odd because we haven't seen this before. And a lot of people bring up Kevin Nash. Well, back in 1996, WWE let everyone know that Kevin Nash was leaving. That was completely different because he was leaving. He didn't want to go. He was leaving for a lot of money that WWE could not match. There was no way they could match that offer. He had to leave. There was no change in his mind. So there was no reason to hold out and wait. They let everybody know that he's leaving for the money. And then they jobbed him out on TV. With Dean Ambrose, he's definitely not leaving for the money. I'm sure All Elite Wrestling, they do have a billionaire backing them. They could afford to pay him close, if not maybe even more than WWE is. But I seriously don't think he's leaving for the money. He might just be burnt out. He's been with the company for a while now. Aside from his injury that he suffered last year, he's been a pretty big workhorse, pretty solid Iron Man for WWE for a long time. He might just want to rest up his body or go work for somebody like All Elite or New Japan or some independents where he can work a much lighter schedule and maybe make a little bit less money. He's obviously saved his money. Him and Renee combined have a very attractive income he can probably afford to make half the money that he's used to making for a couple of years, if it means resting up and just kind of recharging your batteries. And we know that Ambrose hasn't been completely thrilled with his use and his push in WWE. He gets frustrated at times. And Brian the Guppy on Twitter said something the other day that I thought was really interesting and true, is that you can trace back Ambrose's lack of appeal in WWE or his poor use. You could trace a lot of this back to that Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. And I think on that night, WWE realized that, holy shit, we've got a weirdo on our hands here. Dean Ambrose is a strange one. Didn't seem like he wanted to talk, seemed extremely uncooperative at times. That's why I can believe that this might be legit, because Dean Ambrose is strange. Even though it seems like he's got everything he needs right there in WWE, he's the most recognizable that he's ever going to be right now. But that might not be important to Dean Ambrose. Hell, Dean Ambrose might leave WWE and go become a professional bowler and maybe not wrestle at all. Take 3 years off, come back to WWE in a few years and reform the Shield with Roman and Seth. Or he could head over to All Elite Wrestling, and I really hope that he does, because that's a big name to go over there. And what if All Elite is able to lure, I'm just saying maybe lure, CM Punk to come in and make one appearance, do one fucking match, and you can have Ambrose versus CM Punk at Double or Nothing. Again, do you want to put two outsiders in your main event? Those are not the guys you're going to build your company around. Well, maybe Ambrose is if he actually goes over there. But that could be a pretty big fucking main event for your first show. And that's probably the biggest main event that you can do. So if this is legit, and I got to be honest with you, I'm kind of hoping that it is. Because a big name like this leaving, number one, won't harm WWE at all. Their world will just keep on a-spinning and the machine will keep rolling whether Dean Ambrose is there or not. It does not make any difference to them. But it could make a huge difference for All Elite Wrestling if he does jump over there. So a lot remains to be seen with Dean Ambrose. We have no idea what he's going to do. And if he is leaving and his leaving is a shoot and it's legit, we don't know why he's leaving or where he's going. It would be great to see him turn up in All Elite Wrestling. It would be great to see him show up in Japan. It would be great to see him show up anywhere. But he might not show up anywhere at all. He might just sit on his ass. Like I said, he's a fucking weirdo, and we don't know what's going on inside of that noodle. So whatever he's doing, I wish him well. If this turns out to be the work of all works, and he winds up working a match with Triple H, or he winds up cutting a pipe bomb type of promo, because this is very reminiscent of that. I wouldn't be surprised. Dean Ambrose was about to say something on Monday Night Raw, and I think a lot is going to be revealed to us as far as how they use him on TV. Because if they make him leaving a huge deal on TV, and they talk about it every week, and he cuts a big pipe bomb promo, calling out Triple H, and it leads to a match, Triple H versus Ambrose, at WrestleMania, and they make this huge deal and give Ambrose all this exposure, I think that he's staying. But if they leave him off TV for the most part, they make him get beat up or even lose a match to Nia Jax, which I think might be possible, then he's probably out the door because WWE's going to job him out and humiliate him as much as they can. But if he works with Triple H and they're making him leaving the company as part of the storyline, I'm thinking it might be work and he might be staying. So at this point, if I had to guess, even though I feel like it could be a work, I think I'm still leaning more towards it's legit. And I hope that doesn't piss anybody off. Oh, Greg, I can't believe you're falling for it. Well, I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at all the evidence here, and I admit that it's weird, and I admit that it could be a work, and part of me hopes that it is, because I think if they are able to work everybody, and they don't make it obvious, and they swerve us or throw a twist at us at the end, I think that can be amazing. But also on the other side of that coin, if it's legit and he is leaving, I'm really excited for what that could mean for All Elite Wrestling. He's pretty tight with Jericho, apparently, so it could be good either way. I think for the fans here, honestly, it's a win-win. If he leaves and goes to All Elite Wrestling, great. Hell yeah. That's going to be awesome. If he stays and they turn this into one of the most interesting storylines in WWE history and try to maybe outdo what they did with CM Punk back in 2011, because we haven't really seen anything like that since, so maybe they feel like they want to recreate that and make people forget about what happened in 2011 and give us a more modern version of a pipe bomb and somebody leaving and all of that. Maybe Triple H and Ambrose wrestle at WrestleMania, Ambrose beats him and blows him a kiss and runs through the crowd or something like that. So what do y'all think? Just let me know, if he's leaving, what do you think he should do? If he's staying, what do you think he should do? I just want to gauge what you guys think of this whole situation, because I'm getting a mixture of all of it on social media. And speaking of people leaving, there's another WWE departure to mention. Hideo Itami has been granted his release. He requested his release, and they gave him his release. And I'm so happy that they did. I'm so glad that they didn't cockblock him from going back to Japan or going somewhere else, because the poor guy never got out of the blocks. When did he come in? Didn't he come in with Kevin Owens and that class? That was a long time ago. And injuries really set him back. And this is one, this is not on WWE. WWE can be blamed for a lot of misuse of talent. Hideo Itami was just hindered by injuries ever since he got in the door, and he just never, people lapped him, people passed him by. So many guys were getting signed because when Itami was signed, he was going to be the next big thing in NXT. He was going to be a title holder on the main roster. They had him penciled in for some big things, and it never really panned out. So at least WWE allowed themselves to cut their losses and let Kenta go back to where he can flourish again. And if you notice, immediately on his Twitter page, it was changed to Kenta. And he tweeted out a thank you to everybody. I think they granted him his release right after 205 Live. I think 205 Live was his last match. He lost to Akira Tozawa, and he gets to go back now. And I'm happy for him, and I wish him all the luck in the world. Good on WWE for letting him go and not holding him hostage. I think that was very cool. But getting back to Ambrose and Rollins and this whole situation, it definitely seems like the issue between Ambrose and Rollins is finally squashed. I can't see them having another match now. And Rollins is now going to move on to do whatever he's going to do in his build with Brock Lesnar between now and WrestleMania. Because when we fast forward to the end of the show, the final segment did see Seth Rollins come right out and announce that he's facing Brock Lesnar. Daniel Bryan was supposed to be out there too. He never even showed up. Heyman and Brock were out there cutting a promo. Seth interrupted, and he got attacked and got hit with 6 F5s, every one of which Seth sold like an absolute boss. That's why I love when Brock is in there with smaller guys, because when he hits Samoa Joe or Braun Strowman with an F5. It just looks like shit. But the way Seth was taking these F5s, it looked like he was just dead weight. It looked like he was a limp rag doll. The way he was flying, like literally floating in the air as he crashed down to the mat. I thought that was so good. And Brock laid him out, and I think later on social media, WWE did make it official for WrestleMania. It would be Brock Lesnar defending against Seth Rollins, and I can't be happier. I cannot wait to get to WrestleMania, because if Seth Rollins defeats Brock like I'm expecting him to, that means the belt is back on Monday Night Raw. And that means it can be defended at every pay-per-view, and we have been waiting for this forever. We thought we got it at SummerSlam when Roman won the belt back, but then he got sick and he's gone. Now you got Seth. He can be finally another guy on the roster that can say they defeated Brock Lesnar clean, and I would not be surprised at all if you see a Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns hug in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania. Now, Roman Reigns looks to be doing pretty good. Some of the reports floating around online that his treatment is going very well. He was filming a movie with The Rock. There was some photos that were released of that, and he looked to be in incredible shape. I think they were off in Hawaii doing that, some Fast and the Furious spin-off or something. So we don't know what Roman Reigns' status is. Like I said, when he first took that time off, I didn't expect him to be back any sooner. Like absolute crazy minimum of 1 year. But in my head, I was thinking more like 2. But I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how this shit works. So if his treatment goes better than planned, maybe he gets cleared to come back. And I think it would be really cool if one of two things happened. Number one, Roman Reigns just came out there to congratulate and celebrate with Seth Rollins. I think even the fans, as asshole-ish as they are, I don't think they will boo Roman Reigns in that situation. I think most fans will be happy to see him there, and he'll be celebrating with his friend who just dethroned the Beast. He's going to be the Beast Slayer, along with the King Slayer. And another idea is that if for any reason Roman Reigns is healthy, if for any reason Roman Reigns is cleared, I'm not saying he's going to be because I don't know the situation. I doubt it. But if for any reason he can come back sooner rather than later, I think it would be cool to see him in the ring celebrating with Seth Rollins and then turning heel on him. How fucking cool would that be? The two are celebrating, they're hugging, Seth is crying, there's confetti coming down. He turns around, turns his back from Roman Reigns. Roman hits the ropes and nails Seth with a spear. The belt goes flying up in the air. Don't forget it was Seth that originally dismantled the Shield when he hit Roman Reigns with that chair. I don't know. That might be kind of fun, but that all depends on what the status of Roman Reigns is, and if he's still going to be out for a year or two or even more, I think a nice moment with his friend closing out WrestleMania celebrating with Seth Rollins would be really fun. And that's assuming that's closing the show, because the women might close the show. Speaking of the women, Ronda Rousey had an open challenge on Monday Night Raw. This is her new tradition. She wants to start a tradition where after you successfully defend your title on a pay-per-view, you issue an open challenge the very next night. And Bayley accepted. That was kind of obvious. I was calling it in the Monday night stream that Bayley needs to be the opponent here. I was fully expecting Bayley and Ronda to have a match sometime between now and WrestleMania anyway. So what better night than the night after she beat her tag team partner at the Royal Rumble. So Bayley and Ronda have a decent little match. Ronda wins, of course, even helps Bayley up. They have a show of respect. And that's when Becky Lynch comes out. There was the man signs all throughout the crowd. They were teasing and they were advertising Becky Lynch the next night on Smackdown to make her decision as far as who she's going to challenge at WrestleMania. And I thought they might drag this out, have Becky come out on Smackdown on Tuesday and announce it instead of doing it on Monday Night Raw. But when her music hit, oh my God, was that crowd happy. And that crowd was an interesting crowd on Monday night. They had a very post-WrestleMania type of vibe to them. And they were having a great time. They were chanting, they were singing at times, and it was a really fun atmosphere. So when Becky came out there, crowd went nuts, and she said, I don't need to wait, I don't need to decide, I want you at WrestleMania. And that just thrills me to death. And you know what's crazy about this? Remember how the wrestling world collectively shit themselves when Nia Jax punched Becky Lynch in the face? People were calling for her head. The fat shamers came out of the fucking woodwork. All of a sudden now she eats too much and this and that. The same people that would have defended Nia Jax in this situation are now the ones slinging the mud because they're so damn mad. She needs to go back to developmental and she should be released and she should be fired and all this shit. Look, that punch to Becky's face was the best thing that ever happened to Becky. So go over to Twitter right now and tweet thank you to Nia Jax for breaking her face. Because if Nia Jax didn't do that, you know the match we would be getting right now at WrestleMania? That same segment on Monday Night Raw would have been Charlotte coming out there. Becky and Ronda would have happened at Survivor Series. And that's what I said right from the start. When that whole thing happened to Becky, I'm like, well, maybe this is going to turn out to be a good thing because now Charlotte's getting the match at Survivor Series instead. And I was saying prior to Survivor Series all throughout the summer that next year at WrestleMania, what you do is Charlotte and Ronda. But after the punch to the face, it changed everything. Now Becky is in that spot, and the match, for the time being, for the moment, is official. Like I said earlier, maybe on Smackdown, and I'll talk about Smackdown in a minute, we could see Charlotte shoehorned into this match somehow, but if it was up to me, I'd rather see it just be Ronda and Becky. But if this match is going to main event, WWE might want to make it a triple threat, and it might be too hard for them to omit Charlotte from this. If they're going to have a first ever women's main event, it feels like WWE would want Charlotte to be involved there. And that would make the match a triple threat, which I wouldn't like. I think Ronda's first loss needs to come clean. I don't want to see Ronda lose it in a triple threat. I want to see Ronda lose it one-on-one. So I'm hoping this match remains one-on-one. They don't fuck with it. They don't change it up. And they have Becky be the first person to defeat Ronda Rousey. And that's going to be pretty interesting if we have a WrestleMania where Ronda and Brock both go down. I was really happy that Becky didn't waste any time. It fit right with her character, came right out there, got in Ronda's face. And I'm looking forward to the build. We got a long way to go. I also don't know what this means for Becky because she was on SmackDown, which I'll talk about in a second. So I don't know if she has to stay on SmackDown until WrestleMania or if she floats between both shows or if she's on Raw permanently now. Because one thing I am expecting them to do is have a Becky Lynch and Nia Jax match. That won't be coming at Elimination Chamber because Nia Jax is in the Chamber match, but maybe they could do that at Fastlane. And since Nia Jax entered the men's Royal Rumble, you can have a segment where Becky Lynch comes out and says, hey, you want to fight men? Why don't you fight the man? And that can finally give us that match between Becky and Nia that I thought had money written all over it after Nia Jax smashed Becky's face in, but they never did it. They kind of squashed the whole thing backstage at TLC. So maybe on the way to WrestleMania, Becky can also defeat Nia Jax. And if my idea for Becky and Charlotte having a grudge match at Elimination Chamber is true, Becky can drop a match to her and then get back on her winning ways at Fastlane, defeating Nia Jax before she goes into WrestleMania to defeat Ronda Rousey. Let's talk about Finn Balor again, because he's got an interesting storyline direction now, too. He came out on Monday Night Raw to cut a promo. He was walking very gingerly, very injured, very beaten up from the night before in his brutal match with Brock Lesnar. And Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush interrupt him. And immediately I was like, great, this is phenomenal. They're going to put the Intercontinental title on Finn Balor. He has to face one beast on Sunday, and then he's got to face another one on Monday when Lashley comes out to the ring and they attack Finn Balor, beat the fuck out of him. And that's great because that tells me this is going to be an Intercontinental title program now. And what I would like to see them do is work the next 3 pay-per-views, or at least 2 out of the next 3. Maybe they work Elimination Chamber for the title and Bobby Lashley wins or cheats to win somehow. Then maybe they work again at Fastlane and Bobby Lashley or Lio Rush does something to save their title, leading to a blow-off at WrestleMania, Bobby Lashley versus the Demon. And the Demon wins the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. And my long-term plans for Finn Balor, what I would like to see, and this is something that I've mentioned several times in my last few videos, is that I would like to see Finn Balor get the Universal title shot again at SummerSlam. I think if they can give Finn a short run with the IC title, he could maybe drop it before SummerSlam, or he could keep it, and you can do a champion versus champion match. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. Why not? They did Cena and Seth a few years ago for the world title in the US. Why can't you do the world title and the IC? Fuck it. Do it. I think it would be fun. And I think it would be a big full circle moment for Balor. It would put more guys on the map, especially if Brock Lesnar is off to do the UFC. You can have Seth have a nice run from WrestleMania to SummerSlam. Then he can pass that off to Finn Balor. You got Kevin Owens coming back at some time. You can have a lot of guys getting title shots. Lots of potential matches here. Plus, we're probably going to have the superstar shakeup. The entire brand split could be disbanded by then with Smackdown going to Fox. We've got NXT talent coming up like Aleister Black and others probably on the horizon. So there's a lot to think about as far as the world title situation on Raw goes in the future. And I just cannot wait to get that belt back on Raw. So I'm liking the fact that WWE is continuing on with Finn Balor and giving him something significant to do. I don't think they would put him in this program with Lashley for him to fall short. I feel like Balor eventually, at the end of this thing, will win the Intercontinental title. He does not have to do it at the next pay-per-view. I'm in no rush. I would like to see it happen at WrestleMania. We've never seen the Demon at WrestleMania. I think it's time. We didn't see the Demon at the Royal Rumble. We didn't see the Demon last year at WrestleMania, so I would really love to see that happen. Moving on to what else we saw on Monday Night Raw, like I said earlier, Nia Jax is going to be in the Elimination Chamber match for the tag team titles. She qualified with Tamina, defeating Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. So they're running some qualifiers on Monday Night Raw. Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan defeating Dana Brooke and Natalya to qualify, and they announced that next week, Bayley and Sasha will also have a qualifying match, and I cannot recall who their opponents are on Monday Night Raw, but whoever they are, I fully expect Bayley and Sasha to win because I expect them to win the tag team titles. They're my pick for the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. We also had a singles match with Baron Corbin taking on Kurt Angle, and he beat Kurt Angle completely clean. So Angle has been losing a lot lately. It makes me think this is going to be some sort of a storyline for him, a possible retirement. It would be really cool if he had some sort of a retirement match at WrestleMania. I don't know who he could work with, could be anybody, but maybe that's something that they are, building towards. Or maybe Kurt Angle is going to make a comeback and wrestle full time, but he's kind of a shell of himself at this point. I really wouldn't mind if Kurt Angle hung up the boots and had some sort of a nice send-off, and maybe WrestleMania can be that send-off. We also had the Revival spoiling the return of Hawkins and Ryder. Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins teamed up, reunited on Monday Night Raw, but they fell short to the Revival. After the match, Hawkins did, act like he was annoyed. He was a little bit frustrated with the loss, and maybe they're gearing up for another feud between these two guys. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Hawkins and Ryder. I would like to see them be put back together. I think that would be cool. Mojo Rawley had an interesting promo backstage as well on Monday Night Raw, where he's looking in the mirror, blaming himself for all of his problems. So it looks like they're gearing up to give Mojo another shot here, some sort of a push, some sort of a storyline direction. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Mojo Rawley, so I don't know what to make of this yet. We just have to wait and see where it goes. We also had a big match between Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre on Monday Night Raw. Braun won via DQ when Corbin interfered, and Corbin and Drew beat down Braun Strowman. So I don't know where this is leading. It seems like a time-killing program to me. I don't know what Braun is going to do at WrestleMania, who he's going to work with, what Drew McIntyre is going to do at WrestleMania for that matter. But the two of them are locked in a pretty big feud right now, and now Drew has got some backup, and he's got a buddy with him, with Baron Corbin. Maybe Braun Strowman needs a buddy with him. We don't know what the hell Bray Wyatt is up to. He could come back and maybe help Braun Strowman find himself again. Maybe they turn some of Braun's recent failures or letdowns in WWE, his losses to Brock Lesnar, losing the Royal Rumble, getting injured at the hands of Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre. Maybe Bray Wyatt comes back to get Braun Strowman back on the winning track. I also don't know what's going on with Luke Harper either. He's not around with Eric Rowan and Daniel Bryan at the moment, and some people even had mentioned to me that maybe he's retiring. I don't even know the story on that. You guys probably know better than me, but maybe he gets involved. Don't know where, don't even really know the direction of where they're going with Braun Strowman right now, at least. And the last thing I'll mention about Monday Night Raw is another Elias promo with Jeff Jarrett. Now, Elias turns heel in this. I was surprised by this. He starts healing on the crowd. He said, at one time I tried to do what you guys wanted. Now you can all kiss my ass, or whatever the hell he said. But basically just healed on the audience, which brought out Jeff Jarrett. And like I said, Jeff Jarrett has re-signed with the WWE. He has a backstage role, and he's going to be brought out as a talent from time to time. And he appeared on the stage with the Roadie, the Road Dogg, who of course has a big backstage role. He came out there and the two of them were singing With My Baby Tonight. I definitely marked out for that. He wound up getting in the ring and got bashed over the back with a guitar by Elias. Elias took Jarrett's guitar and hit him with it. And I'm guessing that's going to lead to a pay-per-view match. I mean, is it? Is that what they're going to do? I don't want to see Elias put over Jeff Jarrett. I'm happy that Jeff Jarrett was back. Kind of warmed my heart to see him there. I'm not even a big Jeff Jarrett fan, but just seeing him back out there with that hair and that outfit and those glasses is just crazy to me. And I just kind of think it's cool. But I don't know if I necessarily want to see Jeff Jarrett defeating Elias in any sort of big pay-per-view matches. And speaking of Jeff Jarrett signing a new contract with the company and having a backstage role, there are a lot of people that WWE has recently brought in backstage roles in WWE. Names like Abyss, who's been TNA for life. apparently has been brought in. Sonjay Dutt is another one, Hurricane Helms, and I read today Shawn Divari has been brought in as well. So that's a lot of people. You add Jeff Jarrett to that, that's like 5 people. So that's a lot at once, and that I found odd. And it got me thinking that maybe WWE, they just seemed hell-bent on hindering the growth of All Elite Wrestling as best they can. And it makes me wonder if not only if they're trying to go out there and scoop up any valuable talent that All Elite Wrestling could use, but maybe they're trying to scoop up as many people that they can that would offer something behind the scenes. People with good wrestling minds, with agent or producing experience. We've heard that Billy Gunn is in All Elite Wrestling, and maybe some of these people, like Double J and Abyss, would have been people that AEW would have gone after. So I don't know if that's what WWE is doing, but it kind of feels like it, because why would they bring in this many people at once? I know they've got brands out the ass. We've got Raw, we've got Smackdown, 205 Live, NXT, NXT UK. You know, that's 5 right there. We got a shitload of brands. There's all sorts of stuff to do. I guess you can never have too many agents. You don't need any more writers. Fuck the writers. But as far as agents and people that can work with the talent and veterans having that presence backstage, to me, the more the merrier there. But it also makes me wonder why all these guys will be brought in at once. And it makes me think that it's just WWE's way of trying to sign these guys so All Elite Wrestling can't. Like I said, I don't know if I'm right about that. That's just the way it feels to me. And finally, now we will get into Smackdown Live, and then I will get the hell out of here because this podcast has already gone pretty long, and I really want to get this up to you by Thursday morning, so I've got some editing to do. But anyway, Smackdown Live on Tuesday opened up with the Becky Lynch promo. Very cool. She was out there talking about her Royal Rumble victory. Charlotte interrupts and gets in Becky's face, and what I liked about this is that Becky just punched her right in the face. Punched Charlotte once, knocked her down, and leaves. Charlotte then chases Becky Lynch up the ramp and attacks her. She goes after her leg. There's a whole pull-apart type of thing, and that's what I was worried about. I wasn't home to watch SmackDown, but I was asking you guys for updates, and when you were telling me about what was happening, the first thing I thought of was like, oh shit. They're keeping the issue with Becky and Charlotte going, obviously, because Charlotte probably feels wrongfully screwed at the Royal Rumble, and what I was worried they would do is wind up having a match between Charlotte and Becky, and the stipulation is that if Charlotte wins, she either takes Becky's spot or gets added to the match. And I really don't want to see that happen. I don't mind if Becky and Charlotte have another match, that's fine, but I really don't want to see that stipulation. So what I proposed is maybe Becky and Charlotte have another just grudge match, because if you do the stipulation, but you don't add Charlotte to the match, that means she's got to lose again. Charlotte has lost a lot. So if she has another pay-per-view match and comes up short to Becky Lynch, which will not put her in the Raw Women's title match, she stays on SmackDown to challenge Asuka and then loses again to Asuka at WrestleMania, I'm not sure if that's what WWE is going to want to do with Charlotte. So what I would like to see is for Charlotte to face Becky at Elimination Chamber or Fastlane or something. You can make it a gimmick match if you want. I really don't care. But maybe Charlotte scores a victory over Becky Lynch. Maybe it's clean, maybe it's not, doesn't matter. One way or the other, Charlotte gets the win. Big win for her, and then she can go on just to challenge Asuka for the SmackDown title at WrestleMania, and Becky can still go in to face Ronda one-on-one. That's what I would like to see. So a lot of questions remain. There's still a lot they can do. Who knows what they're going to tell us next week on Monday Night Raw? Who knows what they're going to tell us on SmackDown? But like I said, I really hope that it remains Becky versus Ronda. I think that's the match that the fans would enjoy the most. So fingers crossed on that one. We had Daniel Bryan coming out with Eric Rowan on SmackDown as well. This was great. My God. Eric Rowan now is backing up Daniel Bryan. If you notice the Titantron for Eric Rowan, the O in Rowan is the recycle symbol. I thought that was great. Daniel Bryan also unveiled a new eco-friendly title, and this was fabulous. I fucking love this thing. I even had to write it down, what he said. This belt is made from 100% organic sustainable hemp from a naturally fallen oak. That's wonderful. He pulls out this belt. It's made out of like burlap and wood, and it really reminded me of the belts I would make as a kid at home. Believe it or not, kids, replica belts didn't always exist. Back in the late 70s and early 80s and mid 80s and even early 90s, you kind of had to get creative. And I remember I made a belt when I was a kid out of like a towel, because a lot of belts that kids would make, they would always make it out of cardboard and shit, but they would get wet and they would get old and they would fall apart and they would tear. So I had the idea of cutting out like an outline of a belt on like an old bath towel that, you know, we didn't need or something like that. and then I would attach cardboard to that to kind of make the plates. And it would kind of carry well. You could wear it better. It wasn't so stiff looking. I wish I had a picture of that. I would love to show it to you guys, but I don't think a picture of it exists. And I probably threw it away when I was like 15. So I don't know what happened to it, but it really reminded me of the belts that I would make as a kid out of ordinary household items. And this thing is like literally made of wood. So I think that's fantastic. It's about time we saw another, kind of custom made belt. And now Daniel Bryan's carrying around this wooden belt, and it's fucking great. We got to think of a team name for these guys. My vote on Twitter was the Gluten Freebirds, but we'll have to see what they wind up calling themselves. And we'll have to see if Daniel Bryan adds more people to this stable, because Eric Rowan, he's a big, intimidating guy, but he's not really been the strongest on the roster. Don't forget, The Rock beat him in a second and a half at WrestleMania a few years ago. He was pretty badass in the Bludgeon Brothers, but other than that, it's not like he's the best guy you can pick to watch your back. So part of me almost wonders if Daniel Bryan starts his own stable. Maybe Bray Wyatt gets involved. Maybe Luke Harper gets involved. Maybe there's a new Wyatt family, but it's called the Bryan family. I don't know. But Daniel Bryan and his all natural fibers and his eco-friendly shit, I'm loving the character. I love the way he gets so mad at the audience. Love everything about Daniel Bryan. And we did see everybody come out on SmackDown. We had Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy, and hell, you guys have to fill me in. I can't even remember now. But basically all the top contenders on SmackDown Live. Randy Orton was also out there. Everybody wants a shot at the title. They all start brawling with each other. And Daniel Bryan gets on the mic and says he's not going to face any of you guys in Elimination Chamber. And that's when Triple H appears on the Tron to inform Daniel Bryan that he's going to defend the title in the Elimination Chamber against all of them. So to me, that's kind of interesting, because I thought for sure once Seth Rollins was confirmed to face Brock Lesnar, I thought the Elimination Chamber would decide who Daniel Bryan is going to face at WrestleMania, but instead Daniel Bryan's going to defend in the chamber. So I still think Daniel Bryan needs to be champion going into WrestleMania. So Daniel Bryan either drops the belt in the chamber in horrible odds and then wins it back at Fastlane, or he retains at Elimination Chamber. And if it was up to me, I would have him retain at Elimination Chamber. And if he does that, you got to figure out who he's going to wrestle at WrestleMania. That's what I want to know at this point. Now, I threw out the idea on the stream on Monday that it's just a name, just an idea, but what if it turned out to be Jeff Hardy? What if Jeff Hardy somehow between now and WrestleMania earns a title shot against Daniel Bryan? I think that could be a really good match. I think the build could be fun. Daniel Bryan, I'm sure, will have plenty of things to say to Jeff Hardy about his lifestyle. Daniel Bryan is also going to be in a situation on the card much like CM Punk was back in 2012, because we know the women could potentially main event WrestleMania. Your two biggest matches on the card are Ronda and Becky and Seth and Brock, at least right now. So that makes Daniel Bryan almost third. And hell, if Asuka has a big title defense against Charlotte or something, hell, that might even put him down to like fourth most important match. So if they could give us the type of match between Daniel Bryan and Hardy that Jericho and Punk gave us in 2012, that could be the type of match we see. Maybe it opens the show, maybe it's second match, middle of the card or whatever, but that's kind of where I feel they're going to place Daniel Bryan's title defense at WrestleMania. And I think Jeff Hardy can make just a really fun, good, random opponent. Jeff Hardy's probably not going to win the title. They probably won't do a title switch there, but I think Jeff Hardy would be just fun. And it would be kind of Jeff's last hurrah, because I don't even know if this guy's ever going to contend for the world title again as it is. So if they give him this match, it might be nice. Randy Orton is another option. Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan have got a history as well. Samoa Joe could be an option as well, but I really enjoy Daniel Bryan as a heel, and I really enjoy Samoa Joe as a heel. They are both two huge assholes, and I love it. I don't really want to see them collide. I think if Joe works with someone, it needs to be a babyface, and if Bryan works with someone, it needs to be a babyface. So I really don't see it being Samoa Joe. Plus, he had 76 title matches last year against AJ Styles. I would also be open to Rey Mysterio, but I think Rey is going to be working with Almas. So right now, on the SmackDown brand, if you eliminate Samoa Joe, you eliminate Rey Mysterio and Almas, you even eliminate The Miz, because I had The Miz penciled in to face Daniel Bryan months ago, but now that The Miz is working with Shane McMahon, I think we're going to get Shane and Miz at WrestleMania, so that leaves Daniel Bryan without a challenger. And some people have pitched the idea of an NXT call-up challenging Daniel Bryan. I don't know if I necessarily want to see that. I think Daniel Bryan should defend his title against somebody who's been there and has earned the opportunity. I think Aleister Black would be fun as shit if he did show up and challenge Daniel Bryan, but I almost think it would be somebody on the main roster before an NXT call-up. I think that's an awfully big match to put an NXT call-up in at WrestleMania. But that's just me. I'm not saying they're not going to do it. I don't see them doing it. But I could be wrong, because like I said, Daniel Bryan definitely needs a challenger, assuming he stays champion going into Mania. He's got to face somebody, so, let's start throwing out ideas. My idea is Jeff Hardy. What do y'all think? I mentioned The Miz a minute ago, and one of the reasons why I'm ruling him out is I thought maybe he could turn babyface and then challenge a heel Daniel Bryan. I think that would be such a nice change in direction to where we thought the feud between the two of them would go. You always thought Daniel Bryan would be the babyface at all times in that type of thing, and see him reverse like that, like the magnetic reversal of the poles kind of thing. I thought would be fun, but it certainly seems like The Miz and Shane are gearing up to do something, and they had the segment on Smackdown where they celebrated with the titles, and Shane McMahon brought out The Miz's dad. The Miz and his dad share a hug together. Shane McMahon is bouncing around. He's all happy. I think it's only his second title that he's ever won, maybe third. I know he was European champion years and years ago, like 20 years ago, and he might have had a hardcore run too, but this is really one of his only first titles he's ever had, so he's all happy about that. And it just seems that eventually we're going to have an issue with these two, and what I like the most about this is WWE is doing a really good job of not giving you any ideas of who is going to turn on who here. The way it's going right now, I feel like either one of these guys could turn heel. I think most people agree that Miz is a very good heel, and if either one of these two are going to turn, it should be The Miz. And Shane always has to have his token WrestleMania match. He's always got to dive off of something. He's usually the babyface in that scenario, bringing out his kids to dance with him and shit like that. It would be weird to see Shane McMahon as a heel facing a babyface Miz. So I think it could go either way here. Either Miz turns on Shane in the future, or Shane turns on The Miz and tries to ruin his life. I really don't know at this point, and I like that I don't know because I want to be surprised. But it feels like that's what they're doing. That's the direction they're going in at WrestleMania, Shane McMahon versus The Miz. It's just a matter now of how they wind up getting there. If they don't for any reason do that, then who knows? Miz can go challenge Daniel Bryan or whatever, but it seems to me like these are the two guys that are going to face at WrestleMania. We'll have to see if that winds up being the case. They are going to have to defend their titles at Elimination Chamber, I believe, because there was a big Four Corners tag team match on SmackDown, which the Usos won. They defeated the New Day, the Bar, and Heavy Machinery to win that. So they're going to be taking on Shane McMahon and The Miz next. So maybe we get the title drop and the turn there, or maybe they stretch it out into Fastlane. Who knows? We also had some pretty big news involving the U.S. title. It changed hands again. R-Truth won the U.S. title from Nakamura, and I don't know what the reports are online, but that sure as shit looked like a botch to me. Maybe the way they booked it was supposed to happen, but the 3 count came so funny, the whole thing felt like a botch. It felt like they had no choice but to award R-Truth the U.S. title when Mike Chioda, I believe he was the referee, when his hand went down for 3, and it really had the feel of a botch. It really didn't look like anyone knew what to do. And R-Truth is now the U.S. champion, and he is then challenged by Rusev. Rusev comes out there. He's all mad that he lost the belt because of what happened to Lana and all of that. And he wants a shot at R-Truth, and then R-Truth winds up beating him. So R-Truth beats Nakamura for the title, then successfully retains it against Rusev. So in a very bizarre twist, R-Truth is your new United States champion, and I have no idea what this means and where they're going to go in the future with this, because it looks like Nakamura and Rusev might be gearing up for an alliance. They had a run-in with Gallows and Anderson backstage, and then Rusev agreed to face or to team with Nakamura or something like that. So I don't know if it's going to be a one-time tag team match, or much like Sheamus and Cesaro, had matches, didn't like each other, struggled to get along, but eventually grew to love each other and formed a great team. Maybe that's what they're doing with Rusev and Nakamura, because Rusev turned heel too. We had Elias surprising us all, turning heel on Monday Night Raw, but then Rusev did when he beat the shit out of R-Truth after the match. So now it looks like we might get Nakamura and Rusev together as an alliance, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I don't think you needed to turn Rusev heel. He is hilariously over as a babyface. I fucking love that guy. But even as a babyface, he's been floundering. Even as a babyface, WWE managed to fuck up the whole Rusev Day thing. So if they're going to put him in a different direction and now align him and Nakamura, and maybe they can formulate a tag team or something like that, similar to Cesaro and Sheamus, who knows? That might be what they're doing, and this is all the beginning of that. And if that is the case, that means they might both be out of the U.S. title picture, at least for a while, and R-Truth has got to wind up dropping that belt to someone. So I don't know what they're going to do there. And finally, another interesting note on SmackDown is that there was a backstage interview with Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose where they declare for the chamber match. No qualifier. They just declared for the match. So I guess the field, the talent is so thin that there's not enough women to do qualifying matches on SmackDown. They did have a few on Monday Night Raw, but the 3 teams from SmackDown might just be put together. And I'm having trouble figuring out who the hell else it's even going to be. How funny would it be, actually, if they let Nikki Cross enter the Elimination Chamber by herself? Because Nikki Cross seems like somebody that wouldn't really mesh well with a partner. So I really don't want to see Nikki Cross in this match teaming with somebody silly like Alicia Fox or Naomi or some shit like that. And Naomi might wind up finding herself a partner because she, of course, has the issue with Mandy Rose, and Mandy Rose in that promo with Sonya Deville explained why she was trying to ruin the marriage of Naomi and Jimmy Uso, and they brought up the Tough Enough, which I don't even remember. I guess they did a Tough Enough, and Naomi was a judge or some shit on there with Sasha Banks, and she was given all sorts of shit at the Performance Center to Mandy Rose, to a young Mandy Rose, and Mandy is saying that's the reason for her going out there and trying to ruin Naomi's life. So maybe Naomi finds a partner and tries to enter the chamber as well. That seems likely. But if they do put Nikki Cross in it, I think she needs to be all by herself. And that is really all I have written down for SmackDown. So that should really put a lid on this week's episode. Like I said, we had so much to get into here. Hopefully I covered all of it. If there's anything I missed, I will pick that up this week. I have no doubt that I'm going to be chopping this up and releasing a few mic drops over the weekend. So if anything else happens or anything else breaks, I'll come up here and do a one-off. There are a few special videos in the works. I got a Patreon. I have 2 Patreon donation videos that I'm working on right now, and we're gearing up for WrestleMania. And I have a whole week full of videos coming up during WrestleMania time. So it's going to be a really exciting time on the channel. So thank you very much for hanging out, listening to this. Like I said, leave me all your comments, your ideas of what you think can happen with all of these scenarios, all of this talent between now and WrestleMania. Would really like to hear what you guys have to say. I will talk to you very, very soon. And of course, I will be up here this Monday live reacting to Monday Night Raw. So hopefully you can come join me. I'll talk to y'all later. Be good. Peace.
This has been a Good Mic Work Commentaries production. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/goodmicwork. Follow Greg Morgan on Twitter @GoodMicWork and visit goodmicworkcommentaries.com for all the latest podcast and video content.